celebrate my birthday, I'm sharing with you 5 slow living lessons I learned this year. Let's get right into it. Okay friends, first off, I want to apologize for the lighting. It is so dark today, but I have to get this video out, so here we are. But I think you can actually put me in the background of whatever it is you're doing, whether you're cleaning, working, being productive, because I'm just going to be sitting here and sharing with you 5 slow living lessons that I've learned this year. And I also know that it's funny to say this year as if we're talking about January, like we're in January, even though we're only in September. But I'm centering this year around my birthday, and since my birthday is in September, technically I have spent my full birthday year. I'm pretty sure that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. But if you did not know, my birthday this year is a milestone birthday, so I'm feeling all the feels. I have a lot to unpack, which I'll do off camera, but I have some big lessons, I feel like, to share with you. Much bigger than I think from last year, a lot more nuanced from last year. So let's just jump right into it. The first lesson that I learned is that unexpected things will happen. If you've been following me for the entirety of this year, you know that a lot of things have happened unexpectedly. And for example, my bunny passed away. I've had her for 10 years. I just got diagnosed with like some serious allergies that really impact my lungs. I went to the ER for the first time, stuff like that, and many other things. So obviously I didn't anticipate any of those things. I didn't anticipate these things to kind of take over my entire life. And with that, I was not able to practice my slow living practices the way that I ideally wanted to or initially thought that I would when I was setting my goals and all of those things at the start of the year. And I should have known at the time of me creating those goals at the beginning of the year, those slow living goals, that unexpected things will happen, and they do happen, and it's inevitable. And whether that's a good thing, whether it's an unexpected good thing or an unexpected bad thing, it is inevitable, and so changes will happen on your slow living journey. Once again, I try to remind other people, but I'm also reminding myself with this lesson that slow living is a journey. It's not something that you cross off a checklist and you say, yeah, I've completed slow living, moving on to the next goal. It is never linear. It always has its ebbs and flows. And so you're gonna have moments where you're really, really at low points and you're not doing anything towards your slow living journey. And then you're gonna have really, really high points where you're on top of everything. And so obviously when I say you, I'm talking about you and me collectively. But yeah, I definitely had a test run this year in terms of unexpected things happening. I feel like in comparison to last year, things went super smoothly. And so this year, with everything just happening, I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to, bounce back into the swing of things because one, it's really hard to deal with the things that I was dealing with and bounce back in general. But two, once you fall off a little bit on your journey, you feel like you've lost so much momentum. And so it was just a big learning curve for me. And it's definitely going to be a year that I look back on for years and years to come, to know that it's okay for these unexpected things to happen, even though they are unfortunate in some circumstances. We just need to go with the ebb and flow. We just need to allow ourselves the time to have those low lows, and then we'll eventually get to the high highs. So just be patient with yourself. I'm also telling myself this, but just be patient with yourself, be patient with the circumstances, and understand that we all go through seasons, whether they may be good or bad. And it's okay. Lesson number 2, what was once super, super important at one point in time can suddenly become completely unimportant at another time. And a lot of time can pass in between that, or just a couple of days can pass in between that, but it happens. So for example, I will definitely go through this when I do like quarterly reviews or I do my monthly reviews, but I had a list of goals that I set at the beginning of the year. They're like my big 2024 goals. And some of them really don't matter to me right now. And we're nearing the end of the year. I don't want to say it like that to freak people out, but we're in the last quarter of the year. And some of those things I know that I will not focus on because they just don't matter to me right now. And again, that is okay because our slow living journey is not linear. And what we thought was important at the beginning of the year may simply not be important at the end of the year. And that doesn't necessarily have to have something negative connected to it. It can just simply mean like you've figured out different values, you figured out different things that are more important, you figured out new priorities, etc., etc. And in my circumstance, that is the case. I prioritized some things more than other things, and that left some of those things off of my 2024 list to be unimportant. I'll get into it more, but long story short, my priorities shifted drastically as the year went on, and that caused my 2024 goals to not be super applicable by the end of the year or coming down to the end of the year. And again, that's totally okay. We have to allow ourselves to grow and shift and change with the ebb and flows and with experiences and what goes on around the world and what goes on in our personal lives. And so we need to allow ourselves to have that space to make changes and not kind of beat ourselves up over it. Lesson number 3. Did I say tip for the second one? I mean lesson. Lesson number 3 is no one cares about you more than you. And I put in parentheses, this can be a good or bad thing. So I know it sounds negative to say that no one cares about you more than you, but I like to think of it as a sentence that gives me relief. So I'm someone that is a huge people pleaser. I think I talked about this in last year's video where I talked about setting boundaries and stuff like that. And part of my people pleasing tendencies is that I'm constantly thinking about how someone else is feeling about me or how I treat them or how I respond to them, etc., etc. I'm constantly thinking about how I'm perceived. And it's a tricky thing because to understand that and to be so self-aware means that you are willing and open to, improve yourself. But it can also be a bad thing because you are obsessed with how you're being perceived. And so you're never satisfied with who you are as a person because you're trying to match the needs of other people and be ideal for them instead of just being yourself and allowing other people to accept you and love you for who you are. So when I say no one cares about you more than you, and I look at it in a good sense, I mean that all of those thoughts, all of those very self-aware, detailed thoughts of yourself that is very self-critical is all happening in your head. Again, I'm saying your as if I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to you and me collectively. But it's mostly all in your head, and it's really not that serious, and nobody else is thinking that hyper detailed about you and your traits and your qualities and your personality as much as you are. It's never going to be to the extent that you think about yourself in that sense, if you're anything like me. And so I find it to be a relief to know that because it helps me stop thinking about how I'm being perceived by the person that's in front of me, by a friend, a colleague, whoever it may be. And that's really, really relieving. It allows me to open up space and mental capacity to continue improving myself for me and not for someone else. As time goes on, I can continue to form into the person that I want to be, as opposed to what other people want me to be. I hope that makes sense. I hope that kind of sparks some light in other areas that I'm talking about that are similar to this one lesson, such as setting boundaries, people pleasing. I've actually had to tell this lesson to not only myself and not only to you right now, but also to Ian because he is also a people pleaser. And so having conversations with him as someone who is my partner and lives with me, it's very therapeutic. It's very good to speak these things out loud and process these things so that we can heal and we can continue to be individuals. He can become his own individual, I can become my own individual, and we don't have to rely on the people around us, sometimes toxic people around us, as a base for our personalities and our individuality. Okay, lesson number 4 is sustainability can be achieved in more than one clear-cut way. So when I'm pretty sure it was in 2020 when I went vegan, I was really, really big on sustainability, really big on, being eco-conscious, things like that. And I still am. It's a big part of Slow Morning Diaries. It's to be mindful, it's to be thoughtful, it's to think curatedly, to think mindfully, all of those good things. However, as time has gone on, I have noticed that back in 2020, I was on the far more extreme side of things than I am now. And I have learned that we need to be more inclusive when it comes to sustainability. We need to accept that sustainability doesn't have one singular path, and it's not going to look the same for every single person in society. And people can approach sustainability in their own ways, and it's still sustainable, it's still eco-conscious. It's a lesson that I feel like I should have known better. I feel like I should have known better, but at the time when I was just getting into all of this sustainability stuff, I went in full force and I was very passionate and enthusiastic. So I wanted to do everything up to the highest standard. I wanted to be the perfect environmentalist almost. And come to learn that there's no such thing. There's no perfectly sustainable person 100% of the time. And so if I'm talking about practical examples here, say, for a really long time, I would only exclusively get my clothing thrifted. I also didn't have much clothing at all. And that's a fantastic thing to do, and that is something that I still strive to do for the most part. But I have also come to understand that I can buy clothing from places that is not secondhand, and it's brand new, and it can be from a brand that, you know, is well known. And it's still sustainable because I'm purchasing it, I'm investing in the piece, and I'm taking care of it to hold on to it for a very, very long time, for as long as it possibly can. And that's sustainable in that sense, right? So we can look at sustainability in different ways, and we can approach it in different ways, even if it doesn't look the same as the person next to you is doing, if that makes sense. Try to be more inclusive when it comes to sustainability. Try to accept the fact that some people do need to shop on Amazon because that is accessible for them, even though it's not, you know, a super sustainable, trendy, eco-conscious, brand new brand that just came out. Greenwashing also exists and stuff like that. And what does this have to do with slow living? I think slow living is all about being mindful and having a curation and being thoughtful towards everything that you do. And so sustainability for me is a really, really big factor of that. So if you're wondering why the heck I'm getting into greenwashing and all of that stuff, that is why I do think it's really important. And I do think it's important to show people grace. We're all just trying our best, and perhaps that anger, that frustration about sustainability should be targeted, directed towards, you know, other people that are doing a bit more damage than the average consumer. And the last lesson is wanting a better lifestyle and having it starts and ends with you. I don't want to target anyone, and I don't want to target myself, so please try to show me grace when I talk about this lesson. But I feel like a lot of us put the blame for a lot of our things going wrong on other things other than ourselves. And that can be true, that can be valid, and that can also coexist at the same time as you not putting in enough action and effort to also create a better lifestyle. I think it's a combination of things. We talked about it in the first lesson where unexpected things happen and you have no choice. But at the same time, you can make efforts, you can make choices, you can create paths, and you can implement routines to make your life a bit better. And I do honestly think it starts with yourself. I think it starts with your mindset. Mindset is a huge slow living practice. So I feel like it begins with mindset, being open, being willing, having that open space, open mental capacity to want to have a better lifestyle, to want to have a slower lifestyle. It starts there, I think. Of course, then it comes into actual practice and actual routine. Those things you can control a lot of. You can create routines, you can create practices, you can carve time out of your day to do X, Y, and Z that helps you move forward on your slow living journey. The things that you can't control, those things are there, those things are always going to be there, just like I mentioned in lesson 1. However, I'm trying to reiterate the fact that while all of those things can happen and we can put the blame on so many things, societal things, all of those things, we can also simultaneously put in efforts on our end on things that we can control to make our life a little bit more pleasant, a little bit slower, a little bit more joyful. I think that's where I start my Slow Living 101 type of tips, is with mindset, with creating routines, with creating practices, with creating a productivity system. All of those things are things that I can control, I can do, and I can implement into my life to help me live a better, slower lifestyle. And so that's why I talk about those things all the time. And I do think that it's really important to remember that you do have control over certain things. You still have control over you and your mindset and whatever little practice you can muster up in a day. And I say lean into those things. Remember that those things are there and you're in control of them. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. So hopefully this lesson doesn't get skewed into me kind of bashing you for not taking enough initiative or putting in more effort. It's just a reminder to you that you have that control to take initiative and put in the effort and, implement a routine here and there. Again, this is a lesson that I've learned in my 29th year, so it's a lesson to me as well. It's a reminder to me as well. And it's a really, really big, it's seemingly basic, but impactful one. Okay, friends, a lot of big stuff happening in this video. So I hope you did put me on in the background and kind of listen to me as if we were kind of on a podcast together. I don't know. But I hope the things that I talked about made sense. It may be a little loaded. It may be a little bit emotional because it is attached to the lessons that I've personally learned, and it may sound like a little bit of jumble. I apologize. I hope it doesn't. I try my best to kind of articulate these thoughts as best as I can, but as you know, when things are attached to emotion, it can get hard. But all in all, I hope it is helpful. Let me know in the comments if it is helpful, if you do like these videos of me kind of just going through the things that I've learned. I feel like it's something important for me to share because I preach a lot and I share a lot of tips to others so that they can get onto their slow living journeys or proceed in their slow living journeys. But I feel like it's important to also be transparent about my slow living journey and how I'm doing, because I can only preach so much before people start to kind of doubt what I'm even working on. And trust me, I am working on a lot, and what you see on the internet is the best side of what you see of people on the internet. So I just want to, have a video like this at least once for the year where I'm very, very transparent about the things that have been on my mind throughout the year that are related to slow living. Anyway, I feel like I've talked a lot. I feel like I'm almost losing my voice at this point. So I will end the video off here. Thank you so, so much for being here. If you end up sending me birthday wishes, I just want to say a very early thank you because I appreciate you. I appreciate you just for watching this video and making it to the end. I appreciate you so much. It has been such an incredible 29th year, and I'm not even joking when I say that majority of it comes from this YouTube community. I don't share it much on other forms of social media, how important this community is to me, but I promise you, when I'm in daily conversation, when I'm talking to friends and family, it comes up all the time because it's so important to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm excited to spend my new year, my 30th year with you. I will talk to you in next week's video.